Hi, welcome to Pace TV. My name's Angel Alvarez. Today we're going to be talking about how people wound up here in San Diego. Not everyone was born in the state. Not everyone was even born in this country, but we have so many people here in San Diego. We'd like to find out how some of them got here. So today I have the pleasure of speaking with two very fine gentlemen, I'm sure, John Wismond and Mike Goupel. So we're going to find out how these two New Yorkers wound up in San Diego. So John, I turn to you first. How did you get here?
Well, I was going to high school, and I graduated from the High School of Industrial Arts. And a friend of mine and I decided to go to California to visit. He had the car, and I waited for him to show up Sunday morning. He didn't show up. So I found out later he got married. Found a girl and got married, said, forget it. But I still wanted to do something after graduation. So I went to Times Square. Right in the corner of Times Square, there's a recruiting station. And my intent was to join the Navy. So I went in, and Navy guy wasn't there. And the Marines said, we don't want you. The Army guy said, yeah, we want you to join. And the Air Force guy could care less. So he wasn't there. I waited half a day, went home, came back again, and he still wasn't there. So I decided I got to do something. So I decided on the Air Force. Joined the Air Force and found out the Navy guy was across the street in the bar at 10 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, in the Air Force, brought me out here. My last station was Vandenberg.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I got to California.
Okay. And Michael, how about you?
Let's see. California. I really had always wondered about what kind of life you'd have in California. And I've heard derogatory terms from time to time. That's the land of fruits and nuts. What do you want to go there for? That type of thing. Anyway, so my journey to San Diego came via the military as well, in my case the Navy. And I spent 4 years in the military, in the Navy, all on the East Coast. And it was successful to some degree. Went to civilian life, worked in civilian industry, didn't care for it. Went back into the Navy for 2 more years, to re-enlistment, and I specified the West Coast. I was going to get to California one way or another. So I got stationed up in Whidbey Island, Washington, with an A3D squadron. Mm-hmm. And from Washington, we would do what they call TADs, temporary additional duties, throughout Southern California. I finally got to San Diego, and when I got off the plane, I smelled San Diego. This is for me. So in the meantime, I had to stay in the Navy in Whidbey Island, coming back and forth, and I finally got discharged then in 1962, and I still not to California yet. Got to go back and make a living. So I'm back to New York and went to work for the Grumman Corporation, Grumman Aerospace. Worked there 23 years. They finally gave me the golden finger, or the golden handshake, I should say. Be careful. And Ernie and I decided to go to California. I said, you'll like it there. He said, well, it's a little too close to Mexico. They may not let me back in. I said, don't worry about it. It won't happen. So we came out here and stayed with some friends for a couple of days. Grew to like it. Went back east, sold the house, and transferred ourselves to Rancho Peñasquitos.
Okay.
And that was it.
Okay, so you didn't come out till after you retired.
After I retired.
You were much older than it wasn't like you came out here when you were in your 20s or anything.
No, I'll be correct. I did get out here from time to time in the Navy the last 2 years.
Okay.
That would be 1960 through 62. Okay. And I fell in love with it. But I couldn't make that move. There were too many obligations I had back east. So I had to put that on the back burner for 23 years.
For 23? Okay.
But I was bound and determined. California, San Diego.
California, here I come, and you did, huh?
Right, exactly.
Okay, and then John, how about you then? So when did you make the move? Because I know you went...
I was right out of high school.
Okay.
So I was quite young.
Okay.
And I spent about the first 4 years in the Air Force learning how to not make big mistakes, because they don't like that. And but when I made it to California, I did too. I fell in love with it also.
Okay.
And I said, this is where I want to end up.
Okay.
I went back east to my old neighborhood with my best friend, And we went back to visit it. He was still in Jersey. I was from California. We were like fish out of water. And I said, oh, I want to get back. I was a tourist there, and I lived there 17 years.
Wow.
So I just wanted to get back to San Diego because San Diego is a very interesting town. And Poway, where I live now, is a good community to be in. It's they want people to be active in the community. And I joined a Kiwanis and to serve, and I enjoy it very much. I enjoy being in Poway. I enjoy California.
Good. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your careers and what you guys did. So, John, I know you were an artist. You were a caricature drawer, and that's for anybody that doesn't know. That's when you take some kind of character and then you put somebody's head on it, so it looks like they're that character or that whatever that might be.
Well, that is something that evolved.
Oh, okay.
Because when I was at Disneyland, I did portrait work, which is not the funny faces.
Right.
It was full face watercolor portrait, and my first watercolor portrait, they told me we have to do them in 10 minutes. I did a grad night, and the poor girl and guy sat there for almost 2 hours. That was my first one. And I thought, I'm fired, I'm out of here. But they said, we start off slow, but we get to 10 minutes or else. So I got there quite quickly. In fact, I was there from 70 to 76 doing the portraits, and I did 45,000 watercolor portraits. And that's what got me in the Guinness Book of Records. It broke a record. It stayed till 1987. And then New York bought out the Guinness people, and I was out of contention then. There was no more topic for that. So I said, fine, now nobody's going to break my record.
Can't break your record. Yeah, nobody's doing it.
So that was my Disney time.
Okay, so you sat people down for 2 hours and then did...
No, for 10 minutes.
No, but originally, on your first one.
Originally,
the
first one.
Well, even for 10 minutes. So in 10 minutes, you could draw 2 people and do a watercolor... I'm assuming it'd have to be a good rendering. I mean, I wouldn't want to come out looking like a giraffe.
No, you had to look good.
Okay.
That's why changing over from portraits, they took out artists on Main Street for whatever dispute between the artist and Disney. And they took them out, and they decided to take our watercolors out with those artists on Main Street because they didn't want to point to us and say, well, how come you taking us out and not them? So they took us out, but they still had the caricatures, which is totally different, which is drawing very quickly and capturing the person. I kind of maintained the portrait style, but they wanted more of a blown up, exaggerated. Characters are exaggerated.
Okay.
So I eventually got into that, and I haven't got out of it. I've been doing it ever since.
Doing it, huh?
Yeah, various places.
Now, how would you do a watercolor portrait in 10 minutes? I mean,
there's a formula for it. If there's artists out there, they can learn this. You first look in your mind, capture that person. Draw them very quickly, quick sketch. So workshops are good for that. They only let you draw for a few minutes or a few seconds. Say, stop. That's very good. So you learn how to do the face in about 2 minutes with a pencil. It's a crayon pencil, actually. And it holds the watercolor. Then you hit it with watercolor, and you do at least two layers of the watercolor. For instance, the face is whatever your skin tone is. I do that, and then cover it with the second one to highlight things. And you could pull out highlights by pulling the paint out. So you learn all these tricks, but you end up doing it in 10 minutes. And because we only got paid $2.50 a sketch.
Oh my gosh!
Because they were only asking $3 something at that time. This is way back when.
Well, I was going to say it, but
before the $100 whatever thing. And we learned to do them quickly and efficiently. So everybody was our critic. So
it's a critic. All right. Then, Michael, I know you were in the Navy for a while. You mentioned.
I got into the Navy because it was probably going to be that, or I might be locked up pretty soon because all my friends got locked up. And I know in one particular case, the judge said to him, "You go to the military or you go to jail." And I didn't want my escapades to reach that point, so I figured I better get in when I can. So that kind of saved my
You're beacon.
But-
Yeah.
because it gave me a structure, and I did pretty well in the military. I got a good education. I got a skill set. So when I went to work for Grumman Aerospace, I did well there, based on the fact that I had a lot of experience with aircraft, with flying aircraft, etc. So it came time for me to say adieu to Grumman and come out here and see what it was like to live in San Diego. And one of the first things I said to myself was, I have to get involved. Well, as time would allow, we got involved with a lot of stuff. And sometimes the joke is, I have to get a job to get some rest.
Go back to work.
Yeah. But anyway, I find California gave me what I needed to feel comfortable and do as much as I can for the community without becoming a burden.
Okay.
This, of course, wound up introducing ourselves to Pace TV. That was in 2000, the year 2000. And I have never looked back from that. That was probably the most formative time of my late career, was being here and being able to produce television shows, which to me, prior to this, was a mystery.
Yeah.
So it's been a great path to follow.
Does it seem like you've been here 18 years?
No.
Does it seem possible
No,
that
no.
it's been that long?
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah.
I know you had some interesting experiences when you were in the Navy, because I know you were on sea rescue on the helicopters,
Yes,
and then
yeah.
you also were with a A3D squadron.
The A3D.
You know, the old A3D.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the A3D. I think that was I looked up, did a little bit of research. It was an interesting aircraft.
Yeah. The concept was basically as a result of the Cold War in the 50s, and the Navy wanted to have an airplane that was capable of delivering an atom bomb anywhere in the world, because the Air Force already had that pretty much packed in. So the Douglas Corporation designed an airplane that would do that, that would be able to be aloft for a long period of time, deliver a nuclear weapon, and come back to the ship. The aircraft itself was enormous for Navy aircraft carrier type planes. It's enormous. It's a big airplane. And the designation was the A3D. Now, the A3D, basically the Navy identifies the mission of the airplane first. So A would be attack. It was an attack airplane. It was a third of its model, and it was produced by the Douglas Corporation, hence
that's with the
A3D.
D. Okay.
In the real life, it got a different connotation. A3D, all three dead, because it was a three-man crew, pilot, co-pilot, and a third crewman, and there was no ejection mechanism to get out. You had to slide out of a slider under the belly of the airplane, and almost invariably you got caught in the tail structure, and that was the end of you. So prayers were abundant. I'll tell you. So I flew with them as a third crewman for about almost 2 full years.
Wow.
But the other interesting thing about my duties was, the bay doors, the bomb bay for atom bombs in those days were enormous. Like you could fit a Volkswagen in there. And so the thought was, well, we're going to carry this bomb if we had to and release it over enemy territory. But what if it doesn't work?
But if it doesn't drop out?
It doesn't drop out. You've got a fully armed nuclear weapon on the airplane. What do you do now? So they said, well, okay, we have a mechanical release mechanism in the bomb bay. We'll get one of the crewmen to go back there and release it. Open bomb bay doors, crawling around, pull the latch, drop the bomb, get back in the cockpit quick. Impossible. Thank God it never had to happen. But that was the real purpose of me being there, among other things, technical stuff. But yeah, that was a spooky time in my life.
I bet. Now, you were on the Midway?
Midway, yes.
On the Midway. What is it like? Do you go to the Midway now that it's here in San Diego?
All the time.
Do you?
I'm a dues-paying member of the
Are you
Midway.
really? Okay.
I love the ship.
I bet.
The ship was, you talk about, how a sailor feels about his ship, but that ship was special. And I would implore everybody to, if they haven't been there, go to the museum. It's a beautiful experience, and you'll enjoy it. So, I'd go there sometimes and just to reminisce.
I bet. That must be wonderful. All right. Let's see. John, back to you then. When you came to California, what was the first thing that you did then? What was you were out of the service.
When I joined it,
No.
I was still in the service.
Okay, but when you came back to California, when you said you went back with one of your
just
friends,
to visit. That was
just to visit. Okay, but then when you got out of the service, were you here in California?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I used the GI Bill.
Okay.
By the way, I want to make a little comment about Midway. We had an event on the Midway once, and everybody left, and I was there by myself. I wanted to know if I could do characters on there. And one of my friends, one of the guys in the Kiwanis said, "Hey, you know what? Why don't you go on that tour, the audio tour?" And no one was there. And I put on these earphones, and I went on the tour, and it was like I was living it. It was so awesome.
Really?
So I recommend that tour. Back to your question was, I wanted to finish college. I got out of high school, but I didn't have a degree in artwork. You want to get a master's. But I did get my BA at Long Beach State.
Okay.
And while I was there, that's how I got introduced to Disneyland, because I was drawing this model, and she says, "Oh, you," and I tried to keep her there because I was doing a giant portrait, and she said, "Oh, you like to do faces, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah." She says, "Well, I work at Disney, and I want you to apply over there," and that's how I got started in that field, and I've been in the art field ever since.
Okay.
And I think a video, the Pace TV, is an art form also, where you could express yourself in various ways, in important ways, where you could help people, educate people, and change minds. So the video is a real powerful art tool, I believe.
Okay. Well, that's what we hope that we do sometimes with the things that we put out here. So, okay. So, Michael, what do you see in your future then? Do you see anything that you're looking forward to? Anything you on your bucket list that you haven't?
Well, travel is obvious. You know, there are places I haven't seen. Unfortunately, travel gets more difficult every year because of so many things.
Right.
But yeah, travel on the West Coast and go back to Japan, which I haven't been to in such a long time. So that's probably the biggest single item is travel.
Okay.
And to keep on doing what we're doing here at Pace, because, you know, we won some awards back a few years ago, and we justified that we got them, I think. So.
Okay. And John, how about you?
Well, one of the things I did while I worked at Seaport Village was there was the mime there, Jerry Hager, was Kazoo. And I did a book with him. I illustrated a book, a coloring book for him. But I wanted them to do a TV show, a kids show. And that's when people were looking at what children were watching, and they wanted to put a little more emphasis on children's shows. So I talked them into it. And we went to the cable company, and we said we'd like to make one. They said, well, you have to do this, this, and that. And it took us about a year, but we got 3 shows in the can. And I was very excited about that. So I got the bug.
You got the bug,
Yeah,
so you're
the
ready
bug.
to go.
Yeah.
Well, we'll hope we can help you with some of that here at Pace TV. I guess an interesting question, and this is, I probably already know the answer, and that is, would either of you move back?
No.
No
I have
chance.
family back there that I love dearly. I would take a bullet for any one of them, but you're not going to get me back to live in New York. I'll go back there to see a show because there's nothing like Broadway shows in New York. But no, I'm here.
You're here to stay.
I'm here to
huh?
stay.
Yeah, okay. And you, John?
Well, I find New York very interesting, kind of dangerous in a way, but very exciting, exhilarating actually. But like Mike here, I have my sister's back there, and I kind of try to take care of her from here on the phone and stuff. And then I have my brothers and sisters back there, and I miss them dearly, like you do. And I'm torn between that, but I couldn't go back there to live. I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's interesting because I'm native California, second generation on my mother's side, first generation on my father's side, and all of my kids are born in California. My grandkids and my great grandkids are all Californians. So yeah, I've never lived anywhere else. I moved from Los Angeles. I lived in the LA area for the greatest part of my life and moved down to San Diego about 10, 11 years ago. So this area is fairly new to me, but California has always been where I live. So yeah, I can't.
Have you ever been to New York?
Yes, I've been to New York a couple of times, yeah.
And what did you think?
I thought it was beautiful, particularly upstate New York. I think, particularly in the fall, and I think in the springtime, are absolutely gorgeous. I wouldn't want to live where I had to shovel snow, or find my car buried in snow when I got up in the morning, or had to scrape off the windshields to go to work. But other than that, yeah, I think there's a lot of places that are very beautiful to visit. And I think of New York as a great place to visit, but not necessarily somewhere I'd like to live. I like the weather in California, and we have everything here because, particularly here in Southern California, I mean, on any given day you can be at the beach, you can be in the mountains, you can be in the desert, and be home before the 5 o'clock news. Mike and John have changed chairs so that John can show us a sample of what he does and how quickly he can do it. John, quick question for you. When you do caricatures, how do you determine what you're going to present for a particular character? Somebody walks up and says, "Hey, do a caricature of me." How do you figure it out?
Well, first of all, again, I sit like Mike is sitting right now. He's an excellent subject because he's very still, and I also have to draw children. So
That are fidgety.
Exactly, and I get a lot of people saying, "Well, I don't think my kid's going to sit still." And I said, none of them sit still, but if they sit like Mike is sitting right now, which is exceptional, I'm good for that. That helps me a lot. So I don't have to try to figure out, well, what would the chin look like if it was turned this way or that way.
Okay.
So this helps a lot.
All right, so this is the kind of thing that many of us have seen. I know I've seen it lots of times. I've often wondered, I've often been afraid to go have it done because I was afraid of what they come up with. But it certainly is an interesting field, and you see it a lot. Yeah. And there's a lot of it that's still being done, and it's fascinating to me that someone could just in a few minutes sit down to capture what they see of you and put it on paper and make it come out to something that doesn't look like just a stick figure with a little round head on it, like you see kids would draw. So,
if I'm not mistaken, I was thinking, John, that basically you want to take certain characteristics, certain features, and make those more prominent, maybe than the rest of the face.
Exactly. That you want to maybe stretch things out a little bit than they normally would be, and but still maintain the likeness. That's the big trick.
Yeah.
Now, did you have what do I say, ambitions, John, when you first started out? I mean, did you want to be like a serious artist, whatever the heck that means, or?
I really wanted to do just portrait work.
Okay.
And be a serious portrait painter. I wanted to someday do the president.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Well, that's very ambitious. That's a wonderful thing.
I did get to meet a lot of celebrities, though, by doing sketches for them and presenting them with it. And they enjoyed it and they communicated with me. So it was a vehicle to meet people also. So it was a great way to go.
Now, who are some of the people that you did that to or did for?
Well, first of all, my samples at Disneyland were of John Wayne and Bob Hope and Red Skeleton.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And they got to see their samples and talk to me about them. So I thought that was pretty neat. One time, John Lennon was standing there on a rainy Disney day in the wintertime. Park was empty. I wanted to walk up to him and say, "Would you sit for me and I'll do a sketch of you, give it to you, and then do a second one, and I'll keep it, and then you could sign it.
Sure.
But I walked up to him, and he was like enjoying himself really good. So I didn't say a word to him.
Didn't say a word, huh?
No, I one of the times I don't know if that was a good idea or not to miss that, but I thought, nah, leave him enjoy himself while he's not being mobbed.
People
No,
ask
it was
for
it was things like that to make the field exciting.
Okay. Well, we're gonna wrap it up here then, and I thank you, John and Mike, for this interesting conversation, and for all of the people out watching. I hope that they have learned something about how people got here. Like I said, it's fascinating to me, and everyone has a different story. So many of our people came from military backgrounds, like you two did, but there's a lot of other people that just came here on vacation when they were little kids and decided they wanted to come back and that sort of thing. So, we just we'll leave it there. So I thank you, gentlemen, and we'll call that a wrap.